Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is how to use Probopass. So Probopass has some amazing defensive stats when we look at this Pokemon. 145 on the defense, 150 on the special defense. That means we're going to be using this Pokemon as a tanky beast. We also have 55 on the attack, that's completely fine. 40 on the speed, that's completely fine. That means we're not going anywhere fast and we're not trying to hit things hard. But we only have 60 on the hit points. However, that still means we do have these ferocious defensive stats, so we can tank up things pretty well. Well, as long as they're not a fighting or a ground type move. That with our rock steel typing, we are going to be weak to fighting and ground, and that is going to be a very bad thing to deal with. That 4 times weakness. There's really no way of getting around it, that is going to one-shot you, so you need to be aware of that, and then our 2 times weakness to water because of the rock typing. On that we have our immunity to poison and a ton of resistances. Normal, flying, rock, bug, psychic, ice, dragon, and fairy. So really defensively, we are pretty solid outside of fighting ground types. Find a workaround for those kinds of Pokemon, like a flying type Pokemon on your team, and you should be okay. Alright, hopping into Pokemon Showdown, I'm going to lead with a Nosepass strategy because it does have Fear qualities. Now, Fear initially stood for Focus Sash, Quick Attack, Endeavor, Rattata, but now it kind of stands for any level 1 Pokemon that tries to trade a kill with any higher level Pokemon and can do so reliably. With Nosepass, it actually does a lot of really cool things. So you're going to want to use Toxic. And this is where everything kind of goes crazy. So you lead with Toxic. Because you have the ability Sturdy, your opponent is going to definitely one-shot you because you're level 1 and they're like level 50 or 100. And then that's where your game begins. Berry Juice is going to heal you back up to full, which resets your Sturdy ability. After that, you just spam Pain Split. You use Pain Split, you get all of your health back, they lose health, and take toxic damage. You use Pain Split, they lose all their health, or they lose health, you gain all of it back, and then you just protect on that last turn so that way Toxic finishes them off, and boom! That's how you do a Fear strategy on Nosepass. Now you are going to be at 1 hit point, but the idea is just to level 1 troll your opponent, and it can work out pretty well. Now the really interesting thing about Nosepass is that it also gets Magic Coat, which means it has a lot of outplay potential, which is actually really scary, that if your opponent tries to status you, you just Magic Coat it back. If they try to taunt you, you just Magic Coat it back, and that means you get your free turn, which could lead to some kind of really crazy setup. Or if you also have Toxic Spikes on your team. If you have Toxic Spikes on your team, or a Pokemon that's already a status slot Pokemon, you can use Nosepass and clean up a lot of KOs because you don't have to use your Berry Juice getting down that status move that's going to do damage over time to them, that they already have that damage ticking, so then you just spam Pain Split, Protect, and Magic Coat, and you get 1 free screw up because of the Berry Juice. Like say that they don't get enough damage from that Pain Split and the poison, and then you can't protect it for 2 turns in a row or something like that. So you can Magic Coat status, you can Magic Coat all sorts of things, and sometimes even sweep with it or get more than 1 Pokemon depending on the circumstance and depending on how you're supporting with it. Alright, now let's talk about Probopass. There isn't a lot to talk about Probopass because of all those weaknesses and because it's really tanky and it doesn't get access to Curse or anything. It's pretty much just going to be a standard tank Pokemon that doesn't receive damage, but it doesn't do much damage back either, and that's what we consider a problem. So to play around that, we're just kind of looking at what Probopass can pretty much do, and that's going to be like Stealth Rocks, Power Gem, Volt Switch, and Toxic with full special defensive investment. So the way I see it is it's a very, very reliable Pokemon for setting up Stealth Rocks, especially with Sturdy, that no matter what, it's like, okay, Stealth Rocks is going off, I need a guaranteed Stealth Rock Pokemon, that works out pretty well. After that, we have Toxic, so you just pretty much throw down Toxic status, Volt Switch out, go into another Pokemon that is going to resist the Pokemon that's on the field. Then whenever Probopass has an opportunity, just bring it in for the Toxic damage and then Volt Switch it out. Something like that could work out pretty well. As for the other move, Power Gem works just for like Talonflame damage. You can also put in something like Flash Cannon. That with Flash Cannon, you at least get to deal damage to Fairy-type Pokemon, and that could work out pretty well because you heavily resist Fairy-type Pokemon with this set, and Leftovers is just going to be sustained for a while. So the idea is Stealth Rock status Pokemon, that's pretty much all it can do. If it had Curse, if it had a way of boosting its attack, you know. We still have the Volt Switch, which works out really well to give us that little switch and a little bit of damage, and we can just kind of chip around with it, which is actually pretty good. That over the course of the battle, we might actually be able to get some substantial damage done, you know, with Toxic and Stealth Rocks and stuff, so it can work out as a really reliable Pokemon. And as for the way I was thinking about the breakdown, Calm Nature. Interestingly enough, when you look at Probopass, you think, oh, that's going to be a physical damage Pokemon because it seems like it's just going to hit you with a sheer amount of weight and force. Except Probopass isn't like that, which is kind of weird, which means that it has higher special attack, and even though it has elemental punches, yeah, it gets the elemental punches through Move Tutor, which is pretty crazy. You're going to want to go with Calm Nature, that way you're not dropping your special attack, so you get a little bit more damage out of Volt Switch and Flash Cannon. And as for the pure special defense investment, you're weak against fighting and ground. Those are mostly going to be physical, so you just stay away from physical Pokemon in general with this set. They use it as like a fairy type switch in if you're running the Flash Cannon set, or you just kind of use it as a really hard special defense wall that's going to set up Toxic, going to get the Stealth Rocks, going to stall out your opponent a bit. And also the thing is, you have natural a huge defensive bulk, so with your hit points and even just the base amount of defenses, you can come in and withstand a +2 Talonflames. So say you switch in Probopass as the Talonflame goes for like a Swords Dance or something, you can actually survive a +2 Flare Blitz really with about 20% health remaining or something like that. The idea is you get to tank it up. So you switch Swords Dance. The turn that he goes for the Flare Blitz, you use Power Gem. Power Gem 1-hit KOs, Flare Blitz doesn't. That's pretty much all you need to know about like what Probopass can do, which is why you might want that as just kind of a Talonflame counter and also just a huge special defense wall on your team. And again, that's kind of it. Then you set up your Toxics, then you go down, you have Stealth Rocks on the field, and that's really what Probopass is going to do. As for double battles, does get Wide Guard, does get Magic Coat, doesn't have a lot of damage potential though. So I mean, if you want to run Toxic or something like that, just have a Wide Guard Pokemon, can reflect Taunt, can do things like that. You just don't have too much other damage coming around. Kind of tricky to make Probopass work for doubles. Pretty much you're just going to be like a huge special defense wall that's kind of it. And if you find a way of boosting stats into it, might be able to come up with some other things, like if you get like Calm Mind boosts into it and then you run like a full physically defensive set, maybe an iron defense or something like that, that might be able to have some longevity and a lot of damage. But the problem about any kind of defensive boosting in this situation is it takes 3 iron defenses to make that ×4 hit a neutral hit. Because at +2, so 1 iron defense is going to be doubling your defenses, then you're tripling your defenses, then you're quadrupling your defenses. So to get to that 4 times defenses, just to endure the 4 times hit neutrally, it takes a lot of setup. And if you have Calm Mind on that, it's really risky. All the opponent has to do at any time is just switch in an Earthquake or close combat, and then Probopass is going to have a hard time coming from that. You also have Pain Split, so if you want to use that as a sustainability option, you can. Instead of Volt Switch, if you don't really care about the Volt Switch, you can go for the Pain Split. That way, if you see at least one super damage Earthquake or something, that the idea is with Sturdy, you know, you survive at 1 hit point, you use Pain Split, you bring yourself up to around half, and then you switch out after you've already done your thing. So at least Pain Split does give you that option outside of the Volt Switch if you do want to consider that. But that's kind of it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. That's how you use Probopass, and I hope you all have a nice day.